Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Voice of God's TNT Daily Report on August 13th, 2020. My name is Rika. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you have any thoughts, please comment down below. We'd love to hear valuable feedbacks from you. Let's now get started with our first daily news of today. The deadly coronavirus have infected more than 20 million people in the world. And according to the U.S. officials, the country has 5 million cases confirmed. Indeed, the relationship between President Trump and Xi drastically changed amid COVID-19. Let's hear in details from Cadenza.
According to Reuters, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that his relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping has frayed amid COVID-19, and he has not spoken to Xi in a long time. He told Fox Sports Radio that he used to have a good relationship with Xi, but he feels very differently now. First reports of the CCP virus emerged from China in late 2019, and it has now killed at least 735,369 worldwide, with 20 million people infected. Besides the CCP virus, other factors including the CCP's brutal crackdown in Hong Kong and the disputed South China Sea.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear of a news about how political and civil unrest rocks Lebanon in wake of the explosion.
Protests have descended upon the streets of Beirut following the massive explosion in the city's port last week. Protesters in the Lebanese capital cite the explosion as an example of long-standing mismanagement and neglect, a consequence of the government's incompetence and corruption. Volatility is high at the demonstrations, with protesters holding banners reading "Resign or Hang," as well as burning effigies of political leaders of all factions, including Shiite militia Hezbollah. In response, the entire Lebanese cabinet has resigned. Prime Minister Hassan Diab, who announced the resignation, emphasized that blame is not to be borne by his cabinet alone, but that widespread corruption infiltrated every part of the Lebanese political structure. In the meantime, the country remains in a state of administrative atrophy, considerably hampering the humanitarian process that is ongoing.
Thank you. Last Friday, 2 police commissioners were put on the sanctioning list by the U.S. regarding the Hong Kong affairs. Immediately after the announcement, citizens found that the Hong Kong Police Credit Union originally held tens of billions of assets, and the union started secretly to transfer their assets as early as May in fear of the U.S.-China relations. Next, Michael will tell you more details about this.
A police union in Hong Kong is in the process of withdrawing assets and investments from foreign banks over concerns about potential sanctions imposed by the United States, according to a letter seen by Apple Daily. The letter received on Monday acknowledged the worries of many members over the union's assets and investments abroad. The union had 45,160 members and total net assets of US $1.5 billion, according to the official website before it shut down for maintenance on Tuesday night. In its letter, the union sought to assure members that preparations had been underway since May to cope with the possible measures taken by other countries. The union was relocating to Chinese banks a part of assets and investments it was gradually withdrawing from foreign banks, it said. The revelation follows Washington's decision last Friday to impose sanctions on 11 Hong Kong and Chinese officials for their roles in implementing a controversial national security law in the semi-autonomous city. Commissioner of Police Chris Tang and his predecessor Stephen Low are on the list, alongside Chief Executive Carrie Lam and Secretary for Security John Lee, who oversees the police force. The sanctions bar the named individuals from participating in the US financial system and penalize American banks and individuals that conduct business with them. Following the announcement, Citigroup and Standard Chartered were working to suspend accounts associated with the 11 officials, Bloomberg reported this week. But the union's assets may not be safe in Chinese banks either if it is to be sanctioned by US in the future. Another Bloomberg report, published on Wednesday, said some of China's largest state-run banks, the Bank of China, China Construction Bank and China's Merchants Bank, were also taking tentative steps to comply with potential sanctions.
Thank you for the report. Jimmy Lai, the founder of Hong Kong's pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, has returned to his office after his arrest earlier this week over allegations with foreign collusion with China's new law. Our reporter will tell you what did Jimmy say in his return.
Jimmy Lai, founder of the Hong Kong newspaper Apple Daily, was back in his office on Wednesday after he was released on bail the previous night. During the 2 days spent in police detention, Lai debated whether he would have been any different had he known this ordeal over national security was looming. The ordeal began early on Monday morning when the 72-year-old media entrepreneur was arrested and held on charges including collusion with foreign forces and conspiracy to defraud. At the point of this interview, no charges have been officially laid against him. Lai said the law enforcement move was definitely one of the political prosecution. He had expected it to happen, but he didn't know it would come so soon. They are trying to threaten my sons and my colleagues, he said. Unexpectedly, the police action had also sparked a burst of support from the public. When Lai was granted bail last night, he emerged from Mongkok police station to the sight of cheering supporters massed outside. Lai was overwhelmed by the encouragement of Hong Kongers. Nobody should worry. Apple Daily will go on. I myself will go on, he declared.
Thank you. After President Trump sanctioned 11 Chinese, the China government has retaliated by sanctioning 11 U.S. citizens to show its power. However, facts have told that the banks in China still want to cooperate with the U.S. as they will benefit from the U.S. financial system. Let's hear more about that from Lori.
U.S. President Donald Trump sanctioned 11 individuals, Chinese and Hong Kong officials last week for their role in implementing a security law in Hong Kong. The officials will have their property and assets in the U.S. frozen. The sanctions forbid banks from doing business with the penalized individuals or risk penalties that would threaten their access to the U.S. financial system. China's state-run banks operating in Hong Kong are taking tentative steps to comply with the U.S. sanctions, seeking to safeguard their access to crucial dollar funding and overseas network. Such measures underscore the ability of the U.S. to use greenback's dominance in international transactions as a pressure point in the intensifying standoff with China. The Chinese government on Monday retaliated by sanctioning 11 individuals, including U.S. Senator Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, while illustrating the door for communication with the U.S. remains open.
Thank you for the report. Here comes our final news of today. 2020 has been known for a busy year in cross-strait military exercises. Recently, Chinese jets have increased the frequency in flying across the Taiwan Strait to let Taiwan feel the military and the political pressure. Our reporter Xiao will tell you what happened.
Taipei found increased China military pressure. As Jazzra Asia Pacific News reported, Monday morning, 2 Chinese jets briefly flew across the Taipei Strait median line, the de facto border between China and Taiwan. These jets were signaling Beijing's displeasure with U.S. Health Secretary Alex Azar's ongoing visit to Taipei. Officials and analysts in Taiwan say the uptick in military activity this year is a sign that Beijing may be seeking a distraction from a slew of domestic problems, including flooding in southern China, as well as international pressure on coronavirus pandemic and the trade war with the U.S., according to Wang Qingyu, a Democratic Progressive Party legislator and a member of Taiwan's Foreign Affairs and National Defense Committee. We think something happened inside the Chinese Communist leadership. Maybe she faces some kind of challenge, and they are using outside conflict to divert internal leadership problems, while Xi has pledged to take Taiwan, which he claims is part of China, by any means necessary. One, the Taiwanese legislator told Al Jazeera he thought an actual Chinese invasion of Taiwan was unlikely anytime soon. The last major crisis between Beijing and Taipei was in 1995 to 1996, when China fired missiles into Taiwanese waters following a visit by Taiwan President Lee Teng-hui to the U.S. shortly before his election.
Thank you very much. That's all for today's TNT Daily News. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.